All right, sounds good. Well, hello everyone. Welcome again to the first OST Commission of the year. Thank you for joining us. Happy New Year. Hope everyone's doing well, staying safe and warm. Let me pull the slides back up. Let's see. Okay, great. Yep, so we have somewhat met our quorum. Sorry. Okay, great. So we have somewhat met our quorum. Oops. And the Commission on Out-of-School Time Grants and Youth Outcomes is called to order at 6:08 p.m. Thank you. Once again, I know you're all familiar with this now, but just for the technology, when it is your time to speak, the OST team will unmute you and notify you when it is your turn to speak. If a commissioner is unmuted for conversation, please put yourselves on mute when not speaking so that we can reduce the background noise. When making or seconding a motion, please remember to identify yourselves for the sake of the minutes so that we can make a record of who has been speaking and made what points and keep the flow going. As usual, all votes will be taken via roll call for the purposes of the minutes. And for the speakers, we do have 3 minutes per person for pre-registered commentators. We will be having a timer and we will also be adhering to that timer. So thank you. Please try your best to keep your statements within that 3-minute time frame. Now, an exciting bit of news for the new year is we have several new members joining us on the commission today. Our newest members of the OST Commission have been identified and once sworn in, will be taking their roles up officially, ideally to get this new calendar year kicked off shortly. These will include, and my apologies if I'm mispronouncing any names, but Andrea Jones and Joanne Lamperter. And if you're both present, we would love to hear a few words from each of you about who you are. Oh, sorry. Give me one sec. This is the. Sorry, give me one moment. Just looking at the older one. Okay, hold on.
While you're pulling that up, I think we can go ahead and welcome Joanne and I'm sorry, Commissioner Lamparter and Commissioner Jones to say a couple words and introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you.
Sure, I can do that. I'm
And
Joanne
welcome.
Lamparter. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be a commissioner. I got sworn in right before the holidays, and I'm thrilled.
Oh, good.
I have a 2-year-old, so there's some 2-year-old music in the background. My apologies. But we live in Tacoma Park. He's a future DCPS pre-K3 student. So I have personal investment in this commission, but I also am an arts educator. I work as the artistic director for education and Theater for Change with Imagination Stage. And I'm very familiar with DCPS, with the arts industry, and with out-of-school time programming. So really looking forward to this.
Thank you. Welcome aboard. Definitely happy to have you. I'm glad to hear that you were already sworn in, so that's wonderful. Welcome, and thank you for joining the commission. We're looking forward to doing some great work together. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Commissioner Andrea Jones. I was actually sworn in 2 days ago. It has been a very hectic week, but I'm glad we were able to get it done so I can be here today in my role as commissioner. I live in Ward 8 in Anacostia near the Big Chair, and I have 4 wonderful children, 18, 12, 7, and 4. 3 of my children are on the spectrum. They have autism. And so a lot of my advocacy involves inclusivity for children with special needs. In my professional capacity, I am in the behavioral health field. I'm a behavior specialist. And I look forward to bringing both my advocacy and my professional experiences here to the board.
Well, thank you very much and welcome aboard. Glad to hear that 2 days ago is enough time for you to make the cut. So you're official. Thank you for joining us. We're looking forward to having you part of the votes and doing some great work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Let's see. Okay. Great. Now I know we do have a few speakers. That will be the next item on the agenda. Is it still, Marcus, do we still have 2 speakers today?
I believe that's correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Sounds good. So once again, we will be adhering to the 3-minute timer. The protocol for the public speakers who are registered in advance will be permitted to speak first. Any additional public members may raise their hand to speak or request to speak via the chat box to the panelist. Each speaker will be limited to the 3 minutes and will be signaled to stop once the 3 minutes are up so that we can maintain our meeting timeline. Each speaker should provide your name and, if applicable, any affiliations. Let's see. All right.
Mark, can you
Great.
provide the name of the first registered speaker?
Yes.
Certainly. It's
Thank you.
Tiara Stewart, Chief Program Officer from DC Scores.
Okay, great. Ms. Stewart, are you ready to provide us with your statement?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I thought that I didn't know
Thank
I
you.
could unmute myself. Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can. Thank you.
Oh,
Yes.
good evening, everyone. Honestly, oh, I see. That's nice. A nice little timer there. I honestly wanted to join well, first of all, my name is Tiara, last name Stewart. I'm the Chief Program Officer with DC Scores, which serves about 3,000 students across Washington, D.C. We're partnering with 64 schools, now 67 actually. We're expanding to 3 middle schools in the spring. And we employ over 300 paraprofessionals to implement our program, which is a combination of soccer, poetry, and service learning. I really wanted to join tonight, really to learn the priorities of the commission. I know a lot of challenges that out of school time providers are facing has a lot to do with recruitment and retention of youth educators, out of school time professionals, and really because of the needed investment in professional development resources. A lot of times, you recruit and then they got to go straight into programming. And a part of what I actually am working with DC Scores on is building out their professional development systems, technical training, and capacity building, and just strategic direction overall. So I really loved the draft of, well, what I read, it said draft. I'm not sure if it's final. The strategic plan of this commission, I really loved it. So I'm here today to learn more about those priorities and also to see how I can collaborate and get involved. Because I also, outside of DC Scores, I work with other organizations through Lead the Way, which I founded, and helping them to build professional development systems, capacity building, and really just support. People are really struggling. People are really struggling. Organizations are struggling. Our leaders are struggling to really grapple with what's happening in the country and meet the need of our youth, the impact of the pandemic. I just think even just the mental health concerns, I think that a lot of people are overwhelmed. And so I really feel the call to figure out how I can contribute more, not only just through DC Scores and the work, but really just as a community member and concerned citizen. So appreciate this time, appreciate this board, because I believe the future of our community is directly tied to the investment in our youth. And we cannot invest in our youth unless we invest in the people who invest in our youth. So just want to learn more about that. And thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for the feedback on the strategic plan. We spent a lot of time working on that, a lot more time than we were supposed to. So we appreciate the fact that you did take a time to look through it and got something positive out of it. That's excellent feedback. I think especially for all the commissioners to hear, because again, that was something we spent a lot of time going back and forth on. So it's nice to know that it's really impacting people in the community like yourself. So thank you. Thank you also for doing such a great job adhering to the the timeline. That was, perfectly executed. So thank you. Yeah, you're welcome to join us whenever you'd like to, speak, listen in, have any feedback, input. We also do have several committees that you'd be, more than welcome to join, help us with too. If you have anything that you see fit to add with your input, we appreciate what you're doing with the community. The committee updates specifically will be a little bit later on in the meeting. So towards the end is when we do those. So if you hear anything that you're interested in or think you could add some value or want to help with, feel free to let us know and we'd be happy to get you involved with those. We did have a few commissioners that are, I'm trying to figure out the best word to say. They're no longer with us. They're still, here, but they're not on the commission. So those committees are a bit smaller now in terms of how many people are on them. So we would love to have you join, or anyone else you might want to recommend. So thank you.
We also have openings to serve on the commission itself. If you would like to be a commissioner, we need representatives from our service providers. And so please consider that as well.
Definitely.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
thank you.
I put myself on mute because the time was running out, but absolutely. And thank you so much. I will be looking in other ways that I could support. I appreciate that.
Sounds great. Well, thank you very much. Let's see. Commissioners, were there any comments or questions for the speaker? All right. Well, if not, thank you again, Ms. Stewart. We look forward to hearing more from you and hopefully having you join one of our committees or the commission in general. So thank you. Appreciate it. Next, I believe we had Ms. Carter. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Jackie Carter, are you ready to provide your comments to us?
Jackie, you might be on mute.
Yep.
Okay, so I got all these wonderful kids here that helped me with that, or else I never would have been unmuted. So good evening, everybody. Welcome to the new members of the commission. So I'm Jackie Carter, Children's Legacy Theater, and behind us are some of our young people from Children's Legacy Theater. We are certainly excited about having this witness advocacy, because we're certainly interested in creating community members who will advocate for themselves. So I'm here tonight to talk about the Out of School Time Act. So
Ms. Carter,
know,
Ms. Carter, could you possibly get closer? Could you possibly get closer to the microphone of your computer?
Okay, so I'll get closer to this one.
Yeah, you're breaking up a bit. That's why it'd be helpful for us to hear you if you get closer to the mic.
Hi, Commissioner Berkey. How are you? Is that better?
Thank you. That's much better. Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, I just lost about 30 seconds, so I hope I can get that 30 seconds back on the end.
I paused it, Jackie. I paused it, and I've got it paused right now so we can make sure that you have enough.
Okay, so I'm here to talk about the OST Act and the amendments that are coming down the pike through Councilmember Furman's office. As you all know, CLT is a grassroots nonprofit working in Ward 8. And we are extremely interested in making sure that part of the commission work is to adhere to the needs assessment and recognizing that the children who are most in need in Ward 7 and Ward 8. So I'm interested in making sure that the commission has access to the OST amendment that is coming down the pipe. The amendment, it's seeking to reclassify what is OST, reclassify the definition of at-risk youth, and in fact, built in is an inherent monopoly for larger nonprofits. So I don't know. So I'm asking a question: if the current commissioners or if the OST office is aware or has read the amendment, the OST amendment. I have a copy of it here. You probably can't see it. Are you aware of it? Do you know about it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And if this commission will be doing a deep dive to this and to this amendment. That's the question.
Okay, so your time is now ending. So if that's the question, we can then open it up to the commissioners to respond.
I don't want to speak for Commissioner Peacock, but I don't believe that the commission has officially yet put that draft legislation on our agenda to review and discuss. But it is a worthy recommendation and something that we could consider. But I personally am with you in encouraging all commissioners to read the draft legislation and familiarize yourself with it. And just, you know, and then if one has any concerns, I'm not sure what the process is at this point, whether there'll be a hearing or an opportunity for public comment through the city council, but that would be the formal mechanism by which we would typically have a chance to respond.
I agree that it is something that the commissioners and along with the OST office should together review. I have put in the chat. So thank you, Jackie, for bringing that forward. I have put a link and I will also send out the bill to all of the commissioners at the commencement of tonight's meeting so that you can review it and we can put it on an upcoming agenda if it is so desired by the commissioners to review and discuss.
Yep. I just have one last question. Is there a process for, I know there is a process for bringing the community in to also discuss this bill? I've already gone through it and made lots of markups where I noticed that the grassroots nonprofits have completely left out of it. The recommendations of the strategic plan put forth by this commission are completely left out of it. So I wanted to see what would be the process for bringing the community in and other grassroots nonprofits who may or may not be members of the commission to weigh in on the bill.
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, thank you again for coming to provide your input and comment. Again, this isn't something necessarily to discuss as a commission yet, so I believe we will, you know, do some digging on it and follow up with you when we do have an answer with that one. Is that correct, Jenna?
Well, you can certainly sign up to speak before city council when it is when that opportunity brings itself forth, because this is being put forth by one of the council members, and so we do not have any we can certainly advocate on our behalf, but it would be before city council that you would need to speak, and we certainly encourage all providers to do so.
I'm sorry. If are there, I don't know if there's any more speakers to speak, but Mr. Sean Crump is here and would like an opportunity to speak. Thank
you. Okay. Let's see. Shanna, Mark, do we have the? Let's see. Do we have the time for another speaker, or do we need to continue moving?
I believe that we can allow another speaker.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Okay. Ms. Carter.
Yes.
Okay. You can bring the other speaker forward so we can hear his testimony.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Good evening.
Oh, you can hear me. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tashana Crump. I know a lot of you guys on this commission, and I just wanted to follow up and give some clarity into what Jackie was saying, because as being a commissioner for 6 years, I was just presented with the information that was in this deck, and some of the language is very concerning, specific to the work that we worked really hard on the funding and capacity building committee. So I just want to urge you as commissioners, the work that we have done for the last 6 years, some of the language is like the way that they're changing what low is considered, like it's stuff in here about 60% AMI, which means that low income, you could essentially make $80,000 and be considered low income with this new bill. There are things in here about universal access, but young people east of the river are being at risk of being left behind because of social and economic barriers. So I get universal access, but at the same time, to me, that's like saying it's the equivalent of like Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter, when the people who need the services the most, the young people who are most at risk, should be receiving these services. So I just really want to encourage everybody to look at these documents, and then also encourage you guys as commissioners, because we are no longer, like for me, I'm no longer a commissioner with the funding and capacity building committee, for people to come together on the commission and take over on these things, because I am getting a lot of feedback from people who are out on the ground asking about these meetings that aren't able to go to it. So if we can get a representative from the commission to represent the funding and capacity building committee, I urge you guys to do that, because we work really, really hard to establish some guidelines. And I just want the young people, like she said, all these young people that she has here today, my young people, I just left my site, they're here. They want to have services. They want to be able to do what they do. So to say in this legislation that we're making it universal, even though we have not taken care of the people who need it the most, we need to look at that first. That's all I have to say. So I just really encourage you guys to move on with that.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Commissioner Crump. We appreciate you joining us. Welcome back. It's nice to have you here. I didn't hear your name properly when Ms. Carter said it, so I was pleasantly surprised to see and hear from you. Yeah, definitely something to take into consideration. So thank you. We will give that bill some review and continue to keep you in the loop with anything. If you do have any specific concerns as well as you're reading through it, feel free to. I mean, you have all of our email addresses, so feel free to let us know directly which issues and concerns you have, so we can take a deeper look at those. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioners, does anyone have any questions or comments regarding former Commissioner Crump's testimony? All right. Okay, if not, the next item on the agenda is the roll call attendance for the record. So let me pull that back up. All right, Commissioner Berkey.
Present.
Thank you. Yep, thank you. I remember hearing you speak. Commissioner Coates. All right, and I don't see him in the chat. Okay, looks like he's absent. Commissioner Desir.
Present. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Okay. Commissioner Hanson. All right, I don't see him in the chat. Commissioner Jenkins.
Present.
Thank you. Welcome. And Commissioner Jones, we heard from you, but for the record.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Lamparter.
Present.
Thank you. Sounds good. And I'm present. Commissioner Safran.
Present.
Thank you. Welcome. And Commissioner Verlin has confirmed that he is absent today. So it looks like we've got
7.
one. Sorry, what was that? Oh,
7.
Oh, great. Perfect. Okay. So 7. So commissioners, we have met our quorum for today, and we will be moving forward. Perfect. That's exactly what we needed. Okay, commissioners, if you could next take a look at the agenda that has been provided, and if there are any questions or comments or concerns, feel free to bring those up. And if not, when you're ready, can we please get a motion to approve that agenda?
A motion to approve the agenda. This is Commissioner Safran.
Thank you, Commissioner Safran. Okay, motion to approve. Any seconds to that motion?
I second Commissioner Jenkins.
Thank you, Commissioner Jenkins. Okay, sounds good. Great. Commissioner Berkey.
Approve.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Desir.
Maybe on mute, Commissioner Desir.
I'm sorry?
Are you
We're
on
voting
mute?
on the yeah, we're voting on the agenda. Would you like to approve it, or do you have
Yes, I'm
any?
sorry. I thought you heard me. Yes. Approve.
Thank you. No problem.
Apology, my
Okay.
mute's sticky.
No problem. No problem. Commissioner Jones.
Approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Lamparter.
Approved.
Thank you. All right, great. So the agenda has been unanimously approved. Thank you, commissioners. The next item on the meeting agenda for today will be the minutes. Once again, we'll take the vote on these in roll call style. These are a draft version of the minutes for our October meeting, I believe.
October and November.
Okay, October and November. Perfect. Commissioners, can you please take a moment to review these minutes? And if there's any discussion, comments, questions, or concerns, please feel free to bring those to our attention. And if not, when ready, can we please get a motion to approve the minutes?
A motion to approve the minutes, Commissioner Safran.
Thank you, Commissioner Safran. Okay, great. Any seconds to that motion?
This is Commissioner Berkey. I second.
Thank you. Okay. I thought you were gonna catch something there, like usual. I was waiting
Not
for it
this
this time.
time. How about that? No edits.
I was waiting for it. Thank you. Okay, great. Let's see. So we will take this vote in roll call style. Commissioner Desir, would you like to vote to approve, deny the minutes? Commissioner Desir?
Yes, approve.
Thank you. Sounds good. Okay. Commissioner Jenkins?
Approved.
Thank you. Wonderful. Commissioner Jones?
Approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Lamparter? You're on mute if you heard me. Commissioner Lamparter? Okay. All right. Move on. So this, okay, I'll count that as abstaining. We have 1 that abstains and 6 that approve. So thank you. The meeting minutes have passed. Okay. The next item on the agenda will be the OST office updates. Kevin, are you ready to begin with our updates from the Institute of Youth Development?
I am ready. Thank you, Chairperson Peacock, and good
Thank you
evening,
very much.
commissioners. Thank you.
Good evening.
For the Institute for Youth Development, we are definitely gearing up all around quality in the month of January 2024. Beginning actually next week, we will be hosting 3 days of the mandatory PQA Basics workshop for the Learn 24 grantees. You can see the dates here, which will be January 31st, February 1st, and February 2nd. The workshop is a full day workshop for grantees, and it'll be running from 9 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm very pleased to announce that we are at full capacity each day with over 50 attendees overall. And I would love to invite commissioners, if you'd like to stop by. We will actually be hosting the PQA Basics workshop at the Office of the School Superintendent in the Eleanor Holmes Norton Conference Center. So please feel free, if you have time, to just stop by, kind of take a pulse on, all the activities that's going on, and just have a chance to just, meet and greet grantees as well. So we're gearing up, and the quality cohort is right behind this, and I'll provide more updates at the next commission meeting in regards to our cohort for this year for fiscal 24. Another area that we've been really going strong on is our ongoing training series, in particular supporting best practices for serving youth with special needs and other underserved populations. We've been hosting several workshops around accessibility and inclusion in regards to physical and neurodivergent disabilities, LGBTQIA+ populations, trauma-informed, etc. And additionally, of course, and I've mentioned this before, but we're also looking as we gear up to continue the work with our White Card social emotional learning series. We've been talking along with other folks in regards to possibly developing more of a cohort of attendees that would actually go through the entire 10-part series of the SEL workshops. And in between those workshops, providing technical assistance and coaching to help support our OST programs throughout the district. So more to come on that as well, but we're definitely hitting the mark in regards to getting those best practice workshops out, and happy to have all of our grantees and other folks attend those as well. We're still in the midst of currently conducting interviews for the 2 quality assurance specialists. We did complete the interviews for several candidates, and there is one pending candidate right now that, fingers crossed, will accept the offer to begin joining the Institute team. So I will obviously keep you all informed on that, and fingers crossed that she might be joining the next commission meeting as well. And finally, of course, as we do throughout the entire year, we're still in the midst of doing our fiscal 24 school year program site visits, and all the good work that's going on. And just a side note with that is that with the site visits, I think I've mentioned this before, but we are utilizing several of the program quality assessment indicators. I created the tool like a few years ago when we brought grants in-house. So it's another component of us continuing to introduce quality to our Learn 24 grantees in one form or another as well. So those are the updates for the Institute for Youth Development. And of course, I'm always happy to answer any questions you may have. Okay. I don't hear any, so I believe I'm passing it on to my team members from the data team.
Well, thank you very much for your excellent work. We appreciate the update and all that you're doing.
Thanks, Chairperson Peacock. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening. Thank you, Kevin. So I have my colleague Biodun online as well. My name is Olaide Abirunke. We are the OST data analysts. So I'm just gonna explain the dashboard you're looking at. So these are the results of survey of academic and youth outcomes for youths, COI, administered during the FY23 school year and summer to demonstrate the youth sense of support and in engagement in the OST grant funding programs. Here you can see some positive outcomes. Most youths respond or 92% indicate that there is an adult who is interested in what they think about the things, and the most you respond of 94% indicate that there's an adult at the OST program who helps when they have a problem. So next slide. So however, the results demonstrates some are of improvement. Only 62% of youth respondents indicate that when at the program, they got a chance to lead an activity, while 35% indicate they do not. And only 54% of youth respondents indicate that when at the program, they get to help make decisions or rules for the program, while 46% or nearly 50% indicate that they do not. Recommendations for OST generated from the data is offering more professional development and technical support for grantees focused on youth leadership development and opportunities to increase youth's voice and choice in programming. Kevin, do you want to jump in and add anything to this?
Thanks, Holiday. Yes, and I think this is like really, really great, interesting data overall. And of course, youth voice is, the highest component of quality overall. Hopefully, as our grantees are going to enter next week into the PQA Basics workshop, and then also work on completing a self-assessment utilizing the PQA assessment, we definitely have many supports through the YCART Youth Work Method series that will hopefully engage our grantees to increase through their team members in serving the youth. For example, there's the Youth Voice Workshop, Building Community, etc. So we'll continue to obviously offer those opportunities as we get the quality assurance specialist on board. We'll finally be able to actually start providing more technical assistance on the sites as well. So I think those are a few examples just to help solidify, Olade, your data, in regards to what you're finding. And those are always the most difficult, of course, because it's the highest components of quality in regards to interaction and engagement. But that's what the Institute is here for, is to continue supporting those opportunities for our grantees overall. And I'll pass it back to you, Olade. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin. So other updates from the data team is that we have been offering open office hours twice a week. We provide technical support to grantees, which has been helpful to grantees navigating all new update through city spend management system. We also beginning this month to generate executive report on the data compliancy point that allow grantees to better support their grantees and offer support where needed to ensure their goals are met. And we will be launching an automated progress report inside City Spend January 29, that we allow grantees briefly to see how they're doing in meeting their goals, including total program hours, youth enrolled, average weekly attendance, etc. Lastly, before I pass it on to my colleague, our new manager for data and evaluation will begin next week, January 29, and we'll be working to support integration of CitySpan and RC data so that we can have student data embedded into the system, including demographics, school attendance, and behavior, which will be important information for grantees to individually support the youth they serve. And it will provide us the ability to offer more substantive data on youth being served in our grant-funded programs. Thank you very much for your time, commissioners, and I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Marcus.
Thank you, Olade. Good evening, Commissioner Peacock, and there's a hand up.
It looks like, it looks like they may have a question for the data team. Okay.
Yeah.
I did have a question.
Thank you.
One of the things that I find interesting in the data is and it's something that we've talked about in the quality committee, is that what we wanted to be able to do with data is to take it to the next level. And Kevin talked a bit about the training that's needed to help, particularly in the areas where people are low. And we're seeing a lot of low scores kind of across the board in those two measures. But beyond that, I just wonder whether you were able to look at the data for specific organizations and figure out like which ones might be scoring particularly high in a wide range of measures and could therefore be models or best practice leaders to others, and which ones might be scoring on the lower end, and if there were any trends in that regard, because we're hoping over time to build some sorts of like professional learning communities within the Learn 24 grantee network so that people who have skills and practices to share with others can do so. But it was hopefully going to be data based. So I guess the question is, have you been able to look at this data with respect to specific organizations to find those with strengths and those with weaknesses?
I'll start, and then if Data or Kevin, if either one of you want to jump in. So we have been taking a look. Unfortunately, we didn't have the amount of, or we just had really low staffing last year, and our checks and balances were not in place to ensure that all of our organizations completed SAO to the degree that we would like to have a real fair representation across all our grantees. Although that will change for FY24. We hope to have 100% participation for those that are serving fourth grade and above. But we are looking at it. And so what we highlighted tonight are just those at the top end where the goals are easier to achieve, and hoping that all students are enjoying their program, or a large majority, which you are able to see here. And compared to our lower end, which Kevin mentioned is really the higher end of best practices when you're talking about youth leadership and decision making. And we know that that is the hardest to achieve, but we're looking at it more as an aggregate across the board to help determine what professional developments are needed. We're also looking at, when sharing it with the grant management specialists, given this was FY23 data, so that they know how to best support their grantees. We've also shared the FY23 data with the grantees so that they have that information as they roll into FY24. And we did previously share that at the beginning of the year. They are completing. They had through January 31st, which was a bit late. It's just because of the delay and rollout of all the grant agreements that we gave them through January 31st to complete their beginning of the year survey. So as they are finishing up, we will then provide them a report so that they can compare their data against their FY23 data. And then our grant management specialists, as well as the new quality assurance specialists, will be providing technical support to them to help guide them in those areas where there is demonstrated areas for improvement. Kevin, do you want to add anything to that?
No, you covered it really well, but one other thought I was just thinking, which is our first year of doing this as well, Commissioner Berkey, is when we're conducting the program site visits, and of course, you know, we're looking at all 4 of the domains. Of course, it's a more condensed version with only 30 indicators out of the 120. One thing that we all decided as a team as well, we actually do a summary page where we're providing where each of us, you know, whomever is doing the site visit, you know, we're providing like a comment or two or a few sentences in regards to like areas that we're like really seeing that they're doing very well, and also calling out which domain are you doing really well in, along with one that that there might be some improvement for. And so what we've decided to do this year is, as each of us are starting to send out our emails to schedule those program site visits, we're also sharing that summary page with the grantee, so then they can actually have an opportunity to take a look, see where, you know, see what area that they might need to like, kind of like work a little bit harder on. And I think that's a fair way of giving them that opportunity, you know, to continue moving forward in their quality, you know, programming for youth as well. That's the only other thing I'd like to add, Shanna.
Great. And if anybody would like to see the full aggregate data of all of the questions, not just those highlighted, shoot me an email. I'd be happy to share that with you.
Thank you, Shanna.
Okay, if there are no other questions, we'll move on to public affairs. As we know, we have seen Mr. Alex Brown move on. So Marcus Shaw has been supporting the efforts around summer in the city. Marcus, take it away.
Thank you, Shayna. Um, uh, so with public affairs, we have confirmed that this year we will be hosting our second Summer in the City engagement for all event. Will be Saturday, April 6th, 2024 at 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. This year we'll be hosting it at Raymond Elementary School, and we are reaching out, still working on logistics to partnership with other DC organizations that we did in the previous years. And again, if anybody has any questions, anything, I'll be more than happy to answer them. And shoot me an email or we can discuss it now.
Any questions for Marcus? The announcement did go out through Learn 24 today in regards to exhibitor registration, and we will be sending specific letters out to our grantees as well as other organizations that have previously participated tomorrow.
Yep. Yay.
All right, so for grant updates, an offer has been made to the grant management specialist that will be completing our grants management team. So hopefully we will be soon, again, having at the next commissioner meeting another staff member and being fully staffed in the grants management team. FY24 OST grants overall, just an overview, especially as we have new commissioners. We have 133 grantees thus far. I'm sorry, 133 for FY24. That does not include MADC. Of those, 132 grant applications have been successfully executed. We have one grantee that's there were some issues with their certificate of insurance, and that's the only reason that hasn't been executed. But otherwise, 132 of the 133 FY24 OST grantees for school year and year round have been executed, and those programs are taking place across the district. And so just as a recap, we had 23 school year grants, 95 year round, which was a double in percentage of grantees that are now serving school year and summer, offering a continuation of services. We have 4 year round coordinating entities. We have 11 special competition grants. That includes 8 bridge grants, 1 of those school year and 7 year round, 1 students in the care of DC grant, 1 college and career mentorship grant, and 1 OST scholarships grant. So that's an overview of the FY24 that were awarded earlier in the fall. I want to highlight OST scholarships because that has now become available. The grant applications went out. The Greater Washington Foundation opened their application portal last Thursday and are already in receipt of over 100 applications totaling more than 700,000. Not all will be eligible, but the word is definitely out about the scholarships, and we are excited we'll be able to serve so many youth in need, particularly, I think I just trying to speak and navigate and manage this PowerPoint at the same time. I apologize. There we go. So we are so glad that we'll be able to serve so many youth in need, particularly for students with disabilities, to attend programs that meet their individual needs. We have not received the recommendations yet, as the Greater Washington Foundation is still processing all the applications, but they have shared with us that about 35 to 40% of the applications are from youth with an IEP. So we're very excited about that. We also have 2024 Summer Strong requests for applications launched on Wednesday, January 10th, and that will be closing on February 28th. We'll be awarding $1.4 million with grants up to $100,000 each. And I just want to clarify, as I indicated before, how many year-round grants we have. As we offered the opportunity this year for the first time for any grantee to apply for year-round, they then become ineligible to apply for Summer Strong, right? They would have applied at that time. So this is an additional grantees that will expand our summer services beyond our current grantees to offer additional programming during the summertime only. the primary, MEDC competition, 22 organizations were funded in the amount of 3 million, about 3.125. All eligible applicants presented exceptional applications. So we just want to be clear, the primary vision of MEDC grant program is to ensure universal access to after-school programming for any youth enrolled in an identified priority DC public or DC public charter school and who isn't interested in participating. So because all eligible applicants presented exceptional applications, we then moved to ensure the goal of universal access. And we awarded applicants based upon their demonstrated ability to close the gap in OST program access at the identified priority schools. And so with that, the grantees are positioned to close 18 priority schools. Close the gap or clear the wait list, I should say, at 18 priority schools and 3 additional priority schools where they're significantly clearing the wait list, although not completely. So orientation and initial city span trainings have been conducted with those grantees. They are executing their grant agreements as we speak, and they are gearing up to start programming as soon as next Monday, which is the first day of the 3rd quarter. They do have through February 16th, Friday, February 16th to the next 2 weeks to launch their programming. So that's very exciting. So some new news from the staffing is that we also lost Kimitha Payton. Oh, actually, let me go back for a second and pause. Is there any questions regarding to grants before I move to resource allocation?
I do. Hi, Shanna. It's
Hi.
Quick question about the Greater Washington Foundation. I'm not sure if I heard correctly. Did you say that application closed or is it still open?
It is open. So it opened the date in January. I think it was just like a week or 2 ago, and they already have over 100 applications, which is over $700,000 worth of requests. And they have been awarded 750, of which 250,000 is earmarked specifically for students with special needs. That's students with disabilities as well as English learners. Now, all of those applicants will not be eligible. So we will see how many of this first, that they have of the first 100 plus are eligible, and then how much funding is left. But we are posed to run out earlier than we did last year but of course we want to get students in programming as quickly as possible. So that's great that we have enough to get those students in immediately, but the application is still open. And I can drop, when I get a second, I'll drop into the chat the application link so that you can share that with anyone that you know who may.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions in regards to grants? Okay, so quick.
Yep,
go ahead.
Shanna, I just want to make a comment in regard to the MADC, because earlier in the meeting we heard from former Commissioner Crump and from Ms. Carter about this issue, this concept of universal access. And in the description of the MADC, you were talking about the goal of universal access. But in this instance, this particular grant, I just want to remind people, is tied to the notion of the priority school, which meant that all of the additional seats and the capacity for participation that were built through this grant funding went towards 5, 7, and 8, I believe. I don't think there were any in Ward 6, but they aligned with the strategic plan emphasis to make sure that there was expanded access for students in the underserved communities. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing that. In addition, those priority schools were identified based upon the percentage of youth that they serve that are at risk, in addition to the ward location. So while we are wanting universal access for all, we certainly want to start, as former Commissioner Crump indicated, with the students that have the greatest need. Okay, so real quickly for resource allocation, we have also lost our resource allocation analyst, Kimotha Payton. So we are doing our best to stay afloat. Thankfully, we have the wonderful Tara Lynch in the DME office who has been helping us tremendously. But you can see here of the 22, almost 22.5 that has been awarded, we have invoiced 9.7, yet only about less than 500,000 has been paid. So she has been working to get all of the POs processed, as that was the holdup. When Kimotha went out in December, those POs were not received in order for invoices to be issued. So she has been working diligently to make sure that that happens. Again, it's about 43% that has been invoiced at 50% of the way through the year. And the delay has largely been due to the learning curve with the implementation of the new DIS system, but also the resignation of our resource allocation analyst. But we are working to ensure that our grantees are paid as quickly as possible. Any questions there? Okay. Let's see what our next update. All right, as I stand in the wonderful shoes of Dr. Lowe, as she is at home caring for her almost 1-month-old baby, she'll be 1 month on Sunday. So I will present on leadership topics. So as our data team previously announced, we have a data and evaluation manager that will be starting on Monday, the first of our MADC staff to join the team. So we're excited about that. Offers are being made to one program quality specialist with hopes to hire a second one soon. We're screening candidates for the MADC project manager and operations specialist as those positions have closed. And we have the 2 vacancies that remain with our PR specialist and resource allocation analyst. And we hope that we get those posted very soon. We're still, well, actually, since this was actually an update I received yesterday. I believe that we are going to be moving forward with Octo to work with us to roll out the MADC portal. So we're working on a timeline and we need to flush out some of the finances and such. A contract is not executed, but we are in the final stages of kind of finalizing that process and establishing a contract with Octo to carry out the MADC portal build out. They also do the My School DC portal, so they are very well versed in these type of systems, and so we are excited to be able to work with them. Cross-agency collaboration continues to occur monthly, and one of the things that I wanted to highlight, in addition to meeting with across teams or across agencies and discussing shared goals towards reporting, the MADC portal obviously is one area where we're really working to streamline and provide a shared approach. But another thing that we're doing, and it's being headed by our own Commissioner Berkey, is the participation in the National Center on After School and Summer Enrichment peer learning for developing equitable system level strategies to strengthen social emotional learning and mental health supports for the OST community participants. So we participate together in this national, and it's not just Learn 24 and Commissioner Berkey representing DCPS and other staff from DCPS, but OSSI and other agencies, including Commissioner Safran, that we are working together in this national group as well as regionally for the DC community to establish our goals and action steps for rolling out supports to improve our services and supports of youth and OST staff as it relates to SEL and mental health. So that's just a great area to highlight how we're continuing to work together and collaborate to create best practices that are aligned across agencies. So I wanted to hold that up. I'm also continuing to meet with Dr. Lowe had established previously the Community Advisory Network, which is made up of grantees. And currently I have asked and am working with them on reviewing our dosage and funding options for FY25 continuation grants. As you know, that was a bit of a concern as it rolled out for some of our grantees, the higher dosage in FY24. So we're revisiting what options could look like as we discussed that this would be a learning year. And so how would we perhaps alter the opportunities around dosage depending on the program type for continuation in FY25. So we as a network or advisory network are discussing that. So I just want to share that with the commission. So I hope to be able to provide an update on that soon. The next quarterly OST Executive Director Roundtable, it was previously scheduled for January 30th. However, we have canceled that due to Dr. Lowe being on leave. I will not be hosting that, as I do not believe that I can stand in her shoes at that roundtable. Only she can do that justice. So we will welcome her back for the next meeting. And I think that does it on our updates. Any questions?
This isn't a question, but thank you for doing an excellent job with the reduced staff in the team. So we really appreciate you holding things down, doing a great job leading the office while Dr. Lowe is out on maternity leave. So just thank you for being ready to step up and jump right in.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Let's see. All right, and let me get this. Okay, so for the next item on the agenda, commissioners, if there are no questions, and I like that that message Commissioner Safran sent you in the
Yeah,
chat.
that's good.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, so with 4 commissioners' terms having closed out in November and 2 newly appointed commissioners, we do need to revisit our committee makeup. So Ms. Stewart, thank you again for joining us. If you are still here, this is where we will be going over the committees. So please, if there are any you'd like to join, please do not hesitate to let us know, as this is the perfect time. Now for the next slide, we are still seeking commissioners for various roles and would like to encourage every commissioner to serve in one of these capacities, if not already doing so, as we do have several vacancies. Ideally, in addition to a vice chair, we would also like 2 commissioners on each committee. So we do still need nominations for the vice chair role. Commissioners, if there are any of you that are interested in the vice chair role, or if there's anyone that you would like to nominate, please do not hesitate to submit your nominations via email to Shanna so that we can get the ball rolling on that process. Regarding the governance committee, we are working to reinstate the governance committee of the commission. Commissioners who've been here from the beginning, if you do remember, we had a commission for governance with this was when Milo was still with us. So typically it was the chair, the vice chair, a few members from the OST office. We had Mila and Barbara on it. And we also had a couple of other commissioners who are, no longer on the commission serve on that as well. So we would really like to get that back up and running so that we can, continue to keep everything aligned and just make sure the commission is moving smoothly and operating with the expectations of the legislation that originally established the OST office and our commission. So far, Commissioner Safran has agreed to serve on this committee, so thank you again. We appreciate that. But we would like to have at least one additional commissioner to serve on this committee so that we can, have that proper oversight. So if you are interested, please let us know, and we can get that rolling. We also need commissioners on the Coordination and Collaboration Committee. In addition to supporting the reinstatement of the Governance Committee, Dr. Safran serves on the Coordination and Collaboration Committee as well. So thank you for stepping up. We would like some additional members of that committee. So if you are interested, please let us know so we can get that moving. The funding and capacity building, we currently have no commissioners on this committee since Reverend Hill and Commissioner Crump were both the commissioners leading that committee, and they rolled off of their terms with the commission this past November. So if you are interested in serving on this committee, we would love to have at least someone on it, so that we can not have a dead committee. This would be a great committee to be able to lead, take charge, and take things in new direction, since again it is empty. So we really would love to have that direction. Feel free to provide as much input as possible. It's a great time to do it with it being the beginning of the year, so we can get the ball rolling on getting that funding out in the right places. For the equality cohort, Commissioner Berkey chairs this committee and Commissioner Jenkins is a member, so we're good there. However, if anyone is interested, feel free to let them know, and I'm sure they would not be opposed to having more help on it if you do have anything you'd like to add. So, yep. We also have the Outcomes and Needs Assessment Committee. Our new commissioner, Commissioner Jones, serves on this committee. So thank you again for taking an interest enough to serve on a committee prior to becoming a commissioner. We really applaud that. That's the ideal process that we'd like to see. So glad that you were interested enough in the committee to want to take your work further. Thank you. We are looking for an additional commissioner to support this work. So if anyone is interested, or if you know anyone in the community who might be interested, please feel free to spread the word about that. We would love to get some more assistance on that. Again, we are asking that all commissioners consider serving in one of the available roles. So if you are interested in serving as vice chair or are willing to serve on one of the committees or chairing one of the committees that are currently vacant, please let Shanna know. And if there are any additional community stakeholders that you know who might be interested in serving on the commission and or as a community member on one of these committees, please notify Shanna. As a commission, we will work to approve any new committee members on no less than a quarterly basis. Given the current climate, with a lot of commissioners rolling off their terms, that may happen a bit sooner. So just, if you have anyone you'd like to recommend, let us know and we'll do our job to get them in and try to build a full commission so we can, be operating at full capacity and get this work done for the city. Let's see.
And if I can just real quick, Chair Peacock,
Yep,
I
sure.
was looking at the bylaws, and as we, especially with the governance committee, get this back instated, I think we may want to take a look. But if anyone has any background information as to the committees that the bylaws indicate should be standing committees, includes a strategic planning committee. It does not have coordination, collaboration, or funding and capacity. And so I assume at some point that it was kind of divided. And so if anyone has any background information on when or how or why that was done, the strategic planning committee in the description really talks about like various components, I think, of what coordination, collaboration, funding, and capacity do, and really making sure that we're meeting, the OST office is staying on track and meeting the goals established by the strategic plan. So yeah, we may look at, reinstating that or keeping it as it is, collapsing those two back into one, or keeping it as it is based upon any rationale that anyone has or any thoughts around that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for the reminder. To give you some context on that, those were initially the strategic planning committee. However, I think what was happening at that time, and this was when we were meeting in person, so we were meeting, I think, at least every month, maybe more at a certain point. And so since the ball was rolling very quickly and we were kind of building out that strategic plan, it seemed like the work in those areas was very, it was a lot of work to be done and a heavy load to lift. So that was why we had broke those down into two so they could focus on those specific targets. However, commissioners, if anyone else wants to provide any input or feedback on that or any thoughts or suggestions on how to move forward, please feel free to chime in on that one.
And or join the governance committee.
Yep, definitely. Definitely that. Okay, well, I guess no feedback on that one, but yeah, you know what it was? We had I think we had determined that the quality cohort was such an in-depth level of analysis to be done that was why we broke that into its own thing. So the commissioners could specifically just focus on quality and have it. I think we deemed the fact that, if what does quality mean? And so the commissioners that are going to be looking at quality maybe shouldn't be the same commissioners looking at the funding, because there could be conflicts there. But feel free to correct me if that's incorrect, commissioners. But that's how I remember it, at least.
The quality cohort was a standing committee of the bylaws. The two
Okay.
that are new, coordination and collaboration, and funding and capacity, I think were broken apart as two separate committees that used to be the strategic planning committee. So just something we can take a look at.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, we can take a deeper look into that. I will read back through the original documents to see what happened there with that. But yeah. Okay, Commissioner, so if there are any stakeholders you know of that are interested in serving as a community member on any of the committees or in joining the commission in general, since we are, we do have a few commissioners that have rolled off, please, let them know to email Shanna, or, email Shanna to introduce them, and we can go through that process. We are also we can drop the link in the chat as well so they can take a look at the application.
I have done so.
Okay, great. And we are especially seeking commissioners from communities that are not currently represented within the commission and who are deeply committed to the work that comes out of the OST office. And with that, I will go ahead and pass it over to the various committees for their respective updates. So first, we have the quality cohort and outcomes and needs assessment. So Commissioner Burke, are you ready to provide the updates for the quality cohort?
Yes, and the reason that these two reports are joined is that we have been working together on a proposal for an alternating years data collection effort that would replace our annual requirement to do a full-blown needs assessment. So just by way of background on this, Dr. Lowe proposed a few meetings ago that we consider not doing a full needs assessment every year, but doing it every other year. And in the intervening years, to do a different type of progress report that would have to do with collecting more standardized data on OST programming, particularly that is provided by district government funded entities like Parks and Rec, DC Public Schools, the public charter sector, and the Learn 24 grantees. And so we've been working on what that might look like. The goal of it would be to give an overview of the programming that's being provided, how it's funded, what the per participant costs are, and whether there are pricing, fee-based or free programming in the mix. We'd be looking at things like the total capacity of organizations to provide programming versus the number of youth actually being served, and looking at, in particular, and this is all an outgrowth of the last needs assessment that was done, looking at students with special needs, because that was an area that was identified as one where we might want to go more deeply to collect data. You were sent the proposal for what the actual data questions would be, and what the response categories might look like. But in general, the overall report would be collecting data on what types of programs are happening, both after school programming during the school year and summer programming, looking at where programs are taking place, specifically by ward, and looking at the number of hours and weeks that youth are being served in the program, it was recommended that in addition, when we send out the draft questionnaire, it was recommended that we add in a data point to collect the youth to staff ratio as a general data point on that. And in addition to looking at the overall budget for the program, the green there indicates that it was also suggested that we add in a question related to capturing the cost per youth. So we'd be looking at where the funding is coming from, what the program participant cost is, total seat capacity, number of youth enrolled. And we decided that rather than collecting data on just what all students that attended for one day and beyond, we would, for the school year programming, be looking at all youth that participated for a minimum of 30 days, which previously has been considered by the federal government to be a regular attendee in an out-of-school time program. And then looking at youth that participated for 5 days in the summer, which basically constitutes 1 week, 1 full week at least of a 5-week program. We also want to capture some waitlist data so we know we get a ballpark on how many youth are identified as being interested but underserved, and also looking at the average weekly attendance rate, which is something else that was suggested. So those are some of the general information that we'd be collecting. When it comes into the youth demographics, we're looking at youth by ward of residence, and this is not entirely dissimilar to what the needs assessment captured, but youth served by ward of residence, and previously we asked for youth served by ward of program location. And then we'd be looking at youth served by grade level, and then some race and ethnicity questions, and then also disaggregating by the number of youth that are English learners, students with IEPs, students with 504 plans, to capture the demographics on the special needs population, and then looking at the at-risk population, students in foster care, experiencing homelessness, qualifying for temporary assistance for needy families, or SNAP, and then also looking at the high school students that are 1 year older, or even beyond that for their expected age in the grade in which they're enrolled. So these are the kind of off-track youth that are still attending high school. We did also want to include some call it qualitative measures to understand more about how programs are using the program quality assessment. Pardon me. First off, asking if they are using that program quality assessment, which is what Learn24 uses for all grantees. And then asking about how the data is specifically used. Is it used to define training needs or other coaching and mentoring of staff? All the different ways that the data might be used. How the program supports English language learners, immigrants and undocumented youth, how it supports youth with disabilities, and then also learning more about the professional development associated with those special populations. And then understanding more not only about is it offered, but with what frequency. How is it required, first off, and how often are trainings provided? So that was some of the qualitative data that we hope to follow up on. It totals out to about 23 questions, I think. Is that correct, Shanna?
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's not this massive data collection effort, but I think it will still provide us with a lot of good off-year kind of baseline data that we can use to see how it correlates to the needs assessment from the prior year and move us into the full-blown needs assessment, in the coming year. It'll be that interim. I think what Dr. Lowe was hoping that we would do is actually take a vote as a commission to potentially support this change in direction in terms of the data collection effort. And so this would require an amendment to the commission bylaws. And what you can see on this slide is the proposal to change the language from what it currently is to what it would be if we were to go in this direction. So I think what we'll be asking for is a vote to either approve or not approve the general direction of the needs assessment, but also specifically this language which would allow us to go forward. So you can just see that instead of setting the goals and scope of an annual community-wide needs assessment, it will be replaced with a biennial community-wide needs assessment, which the office shall conduct to identify and prioritize needs for out-of-school time programs. And it would include then a biennial progress report, which the office shall conduct in the needs assessment off year to demonstrate a comprehensive overview of government-funded OST programming and youth served. So that's the specific change that we're really looking for. There's another provision in the bylaws which would require a very modest adjustment in the language. You can see that again, instead of talking about an annual needs assessment, it would be replaced with biennial needs assessment and progress report as, things that would happen every other year. So I want to thank the other commissioners that have been part of this effort with Shanna. Andrea Jones, representing the Outcomes Committee, has really been active in this work, as well as Commissioner Jenkins on the Quality Committee. We've had other members from the Quality Committee who've participated in meetings at different points and provided some feedback. And we really appreciate the other comments that we received from other commissioners to help strengthen some of the questions that were offered. So I see a hand from Dr. Safran.
Thank you. Okay, so there are a couple of things. I definitely truly believe that, yes, we need to be making some changes. There's no question about that. I think that the original wording was a little unrealistic. My question is, we're talking about this biannual report or whatever, but our strategic plan is for how long? And why are we not matching? Right, but why are we not matching that? Because we basically gave ourselves this amount of time to do certain things, and then in order to do that, we also have to give ourselves time to actually implement the things that we said we wanted to be done, right? And so the needs assessment is normally the beginning of what helps us determine what it is that we want to do for the strategic plan. And with that being said, I'm thinking that the needs assessment would be done prior to updating the strategic plan, not just every year, because again, what are we doing with that information and that data? Because collecting it just to collect it, I'm not sure what that means. And now we just sat and listened to some updates about student voice and where you are with funding and so forth. Those are the kind of things that we need to be able to make informed decisions. I don't know that it needs to be some big report that we put together, because what we're doing, and if we decide that this is the direction that we want to go, we're really just adding additional, from my perspective, busy work to the mayor's office, right? The deputy mayor's office. And because they're the ones who's going to have to try to figure out how to get this and work it and everything else, when we really need to be looking at the strategic plan. How are we moving forward with that? What things do we need to do to make sure we meet the goals that we set within that? The needs assessment is just one component that helps us to get to that place. So I personally think that if we're going to change what is in the bylaws, that we need to change it to match what we're doing as far as the strategic plan. And then I can also say that a 3-year strategic plan is kind of difficult to actually do all of the things, because we have some lofty goals, right? Some huge goals. I don't know that we'll be able to do those things in 3 years, but I think that we definitely should try to do so. But taking all of the time that it takes to do this piece, because even if they're not the ones actually doing it, you still have to get the contract. You still have, like, there's still so many other pieces that play a role in doing this. I truly believe that it should be once every 3 years as a needs assessment, and the updates that we get during the meetings, I think, will give us the information that we need. So those are my thoughts.
Are there other thoughts? And if I hear you, thank you so much for the feedback, Commissioner Saffron, that you're proposing that the needs assessment be every 3 years versus to align with the strategic plan in the year maybe prior, or what was it that you were proposing
I think it
specifically?
should be, I think it should be the year prior to the strategic plan to help us identify what we need to have in our strategic plan. And then the milestones that we have, that's the information that we need. Whatever milestones we put in the strategic plan is the data that we'll need. I don't think that needs to be a formalized process to collect all of this data that it's not going to change so quickly over 1 year. And I think that you get more insight by maybe doing a survey from the people that are on the ground to say, okay, what other things are coming up for you? What other things do you think we need to do to make improvements? And it doesn't have to be this formalized process. So I say we do it every 3 years, and it'll be the year before we update the strategic plan.
So to recap, that we would do the needs change. Your recommendation is changing the bylaws to every 3 years. I'm sorry, changing the bylaws that the needs assessment would take place every 3 years in the year prior to the strategic plan, and to guide the strategic plan, and that there not be a progress report required. Is that what I hear you saying?
That is correct.
Okay. Other thoughts?
And I feel like, unfortunately, we don't have some of the commissioners that have been most vocal at asking for this specific data collection effort. And I think that it's important to recognize that there are many people in the community that are eager to have a better understanding of kind of where the funding is going, by looking at the number of youth being served in specific areas of the city. And so I'm not sure that folks will be satisfied with an every 3-year report on that data. I don't know. I just think that there have been some very strong advocates, including the draft legislation, the My After School DC requiring a portal, which will then also produce more data. You know, I just think that there's a lot of eagerness in the city for data reporting, and that I think that was the intent, was to ensure that we were offering an annual snapshot for folks without doing the full-blown thing every year as the bylaws currently require. It's certainly an interesting proposal. I mean, we waited a long time for the last needs assessment. I think we went too long the last time, but it's, it's an interesting proposal.
I think Commissioner Jones has her hand up.
Yeah, I was going to say, as a advocate, that the data was one thing that I was advocating for, especially around students with special needs, because the data was very limited or non-existent. And I definitely understand what you were saying. Like, we need the data to kind of guide the strategic plan, but even the limited data that was received, from what I saw, didn't really give the full outlook of students with special needs, the enrollment and the continuous enrollment, because it was showing that yes, they enrolled, but it wasn't showing the other end. When I talked to parents about how the CBOs were asking the parents to come pick up their child because they didn't have the support for them. So I think showing the data showing what is really happening is very crucial. But to your point about busy work, I mean, I would agree, like maybe setting up town hall meetings and things like that. As an advocate, you know, that's what we do to just kind of get the voice of the people. And instead of making multiple needs assessments, we can really think outside the box with town halls, maybe visiting. I would be open to visiting some of the locations and just kind of being on the ground and really talking to a lot of these community-based organizations. I currently talk to parents, so I know what the parents are saying. So I guess I'll kind of see both sides here. So that was just the comment I wanted to leave.
And I want to be respectful of our time because we're over at this moment, and I don't want us to start a precedent of where we just keep going over and stay on forever, because I think we need to nip that a little bit too. But I don't think that we're in a space right now to be able to really vote on this based on everything that you said earlier, Commissioner Berkeley, talking about all the people that were really involved in this are right here, right now. And I think it is important for them to have their voice. The other piece that I want us to think about is, if we're collecting data and information, what are we doing with it? We don't just collect it just to say, oh, here, and look at it. What are we going to do with it? And right now, we don't have anything that we're doing with it. We're just putting out reports. The work I do, I want it to be meaningful, and I need us to be using it in a way that is informing practice. And so, to me, that is our strategic plan. So I'm done for right now because we should end the meeting. Oh, sorry.
Thank you for that valuable feedback, Commissioner Saffron. I think on your point, I get where you're coming from regarding doing the assessment before we do the strategic plan and drive that. The main reason we did make the decision initially to do that assessment every year was so that we can, pick up on any trends or any red flags that are happening and address them in between the strategic plan and see if there's anything big that comes up. Now things are a little bit different, as we're meeting less than we once were. Things are a little bit more I guess spread out, like we're not meeting in person as we once were. And then there's a lot less staff in the office and there's less commissioners. So I don't know how I necessarily personally feel about doing it every 3 years, but I do think at least pushing it to every 2 years is a good, in between right now, and then we can see how that goes. If we don't, pick anything up in that 2 years, maybe push it to the 3 years. But I do agree with you on the points you made, especially that without the primary stakeholders that were invested in coming up with this work being here, we can't really vote on it today. I think it is valuable to hear their voices and input. But Commissioner Berkey, thank you for spearheading this excellent work. I think it's an excellent looking proposal. I liked all the ideas that you come up with. So as a commission, we will need to vote on this to change the bylaws, but I think it's been determined that we are not yet ready to vote on this today. Is there anyone that disagrees with that? All right, great. Well,
unless
again, Commissioner
Chair Peacock, unless I believe there was a discussion in the around the strategic plan around getting votes electronically. And so I don't know if we would be able to vote for those members that are here tonight and then electronically receiving the vote of those that are not present. So that at least, because I do think we run up against this issue of if it's if we need to do a needs assessment, like we're way behind in doing that and getting a vendor in place. So that's the only suggestion I would raise.
I agree with that one. To that point, I think what was discussed at the previous meeting was that we're not necessarily opposed to doing the stretching it out to every 2 years instead of doing the annual assessment. I think we just some of the commissioners were hesitant to vote on it without seeing a plan. So unless anyone feels strongly about needing to do a needs assessment, it sounds like we don't need to go ahead and get a vendor to do it. We're not comfortable with how we're gonna proceed with not doing it. Is that correct? Okay. So yeah, maybe we can do an interim vote on the fact that we will continue working on the proposal. But this will be the direction we're moving on. I understand not wanting to vote the proposal into the bylaws just yet without everyone here. But as Shanna did mention, we do need to, if anyone feels strongly about doing the needs assessment, we do need to do that right now is the point. Like that's the real one. So if anyone does feel strongly about wanting to do it annually, please let us know so we can address that immediately. If not, we can continue moving forward. All right. Well, I don't hear anyone that feels we need to do that, so that's good. So we'll
So
continue
we're
working on.
tabling the needs assessment for 2024 and continuing to discuss how to move forward. And the reinstatement of the governance committee will assist with that.
Sounds good. Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you for breaking it down like that. So sounds good. Commissioners, thank you again for the level of maturity with this conversation because this is a big change. I think it makes sense, and I really value and appreciate all the hard work you've done on this, Commissioner Berkey. So thank you for bringing this to us.
I have to commend Shanna for shepherding the whole thing. She's just so on top of everything. I don't know how she's holding it together, but yes.
Thank you, Shanna. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it does look excellent. I think there's a lot of great ideas in here. I would like to move forward with this plan, but I do understand why we want all the commissioners' voices to be heard on it. But I think it looks excellent. So thank you both for the great work that you've been doing with this.
Well, I will real quickly before moving to the next committee updates, just point out in this timeline that it won't be until April that we would really launch the communication around the progress report initiative. So we do have a little bit more time if we are agreeing to table the needs assessment and figure this out as a commission. We can come back to this in our next commission meeting. So just wanted to point that out.
Sure. I think that's a good way to do it. Commissioners, is there any opposition to that or any comments or questions regarding what Shanna just said? Okay, great. Wonderful, perfect. So sounds good. So we're all in alignment that we will be tabling the needs assessment for this year and moving forward with finalizing the plan to figure out exactly how we're going to go about replacing it. So perfect. Thank you. We will continue these discussions and vote that into the bylaws once we have a higher level of participation from the commissioners. Commissioners, also feel free to join the committee to engage in these discussions as well if you have any specific feedback. Don't feel like you need to just wait for the commission meeting if you do want your voice heard. We can also communicate via email or phone, anything if you do have anything burning that you feel needs to be put into that plan. So looking forward to getting that rolling. Thank you. Let's see. The next item on the agenda, we have the funding and capacity building and coordination and collaboration committee update. Shanna, I don't believe.
Correct. We do not have any reports out from these committees as we were waiting to meet as committees for the new year and hoping to have new commissioners to join these committees. As you know, we don't have any commissioners on the funding and capacity, so that has not. We have to establish members before we can reinstate those meetings. So we hope to have meetings in February. So if you would like to be a member of either of these, thank you, Commissioner Lamparter, for stepping up for funding and capacity. I'll follow up and we will have report outs at our next commission meeting.
Excellent. Sounds great. Okay, wonderful. Well, commissioners, thank you again for all of the excellent hard work. Sorry for taking a little bit more of your time than allotted. As a reminder, tonight is the first of our 2024 OST Commission meetings. Our meetings typically take place the fourth Thursday of every other month from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. and we will continue meeting that during the off months. All commissions will continue to remain virtual unless otherwise preferred or specified. So if anyone feels strongly about meeting in person, we can discuss bringing back the hybrid approach. But for now, the meetings will continue to be virtual. Our calendar dates are, oh, they were just listed. Okay.
Oh,
So the
sorry,
next
there we go.
commission meeting, no, it's okay. It's okay. You can keep going. Our next meeting will be March 28th. So please mark your calendars for that so we can get rolling with this proposed plan for the biennial reports. That would be great to be able to vote that in by then, since March is kind of, well, the end of March is kind of pushing that. So, you know, please encourage the, I know I'm preaching to the choir because you guys are all the ones that are here at the meeting, but if, you know, you do get a chance to speak to the other commissioners, please encourage that participation. But other than that, commissioners, does anyone have any additional business comments or concerns to voice at this time?
I move that we adjourn.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. Any seconds to that motion?
I can second that.
I was
Thank
about to say, what are y'all doing?
All right. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Who
We are over.
seconded?
Who said
Who
the second?
seconded?
Chair Peacock, I'm sorry.
Yes. Who seconded the motion?
I did. Joanne Lamparter.
Great,
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Lamparter. Sounds good. All right, commissioners. Well, being that we are over time, I'm not gonna do this roll call style, but are there any who oppose the motion to adjourn? Okay. Well, it looks like this motion has unanimously passed. Commissioners, thank you again for all of your excellent hard work and time. Let's get this year off to a great start. And it looks like it is so far. So thank you for all the hard work you have been doing. I'm really excited to see that. These plans look like they're coming along great. So thank you again. And we will be in touch soon. And thank you for an excellent start to the year. And thank you again for joining us, new commissioners. We're really happy to have you aboard. And, you know, it's a great time to get rolling. We have lots of committees that need people to step up. So, you know, looking forward to seeing great things from you all. So thank you. All right.
And the meeting ends at 7:50 p.m.
Yes. All right.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Commissioner Peacock.
Thank you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good
take
night.
care.
Thank you,
Thank you.
commissioners.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.